But I hated how that was received for everyone. That sucks.
Well, it was made into something.
It was just made into something that was so crazy and ridiculous that just didn't have to be.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry lied. Not for the first time, but this time publicly, in terms of Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party.
In this town, you can't rewrite history if someone else kept the receipts. And this time, Meghan Markle walked straight into a room full of people who document everything for a living.
That revelation just out from the new episode of the Kardashians podcast.
When you try to control the story in a world built by the Kardashians, you don't get sympathy, you get exposed. This didn't happen with some massive headline explosion or leaked court docs. It unraveled quietly, weirdly politely, which honestly made it sting more.
They are spitting facts. They are telling the truth. And this really matters. Because if you cannot trust what Harry and Meghan say about a goddamn birthday party and a picture approval form, then how can you trust what they say about racism within the royal family?
1 second, you have Meghan and Harry posing at Jeff Bezos' place, smiling at Kris Jenner's birthday bash like they'd finally cracked the inner circle. The next second, those photos vanished. Scrub. Like the night was a fever dream they were trying to delete. That's when the cleanup operation started.
I was like, we should do a full Skims campaign. Take the photo, even just us, like I'll shoot you at mom, post it and then delete it like 30 minutes later. And then I say, oh, sorry, I didn't have permission to post those photos for the campaign.
You should do that.
That's what I was like, that would have hit so funny.
We heard claims about consent issues, then emotional pivots. Suddenly it was about Remembrance Day, a perfectly timed moral shield. The logic was, we aren't partying, we are being respectful. But here's the thing about the internet, it doesn't just remember, it zooms in. While Meghan's team was busy crafting explanations, they missed a detail sitting right on Prince Harry's jacket, and once people saw it, the whole story collapsed under its own weight. But the real humiliation didn't come from Twitter trolls or the British tabloids. It came from Kim and Khloe.
And so with this clip, you very much see Kim and Khloe massively throw Meghan Markle, quite rightly, under the bus. But it's done in a very, very clever way, because how Kim and Khloe are talking, when you transcribe it, it looks perfectly nice, perfectly pleasant. But it's more the eye rolls. It's the, well, we're respectful, we're this, we're that. They are master manipulators.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't dramatic about it. They weren't angry. They were just bored. With a few casual sentences, they quietly shredded the official version of events. And when the most media-trained family on earth doesn't bother to cover for you, that's not a misunderstanding, that's a message. See, this wasn't just about deleted photos. It was about who actually holds the remote control now. What happened next made that painfully clear. On the surface, the night looked harmless, but peel back a layer and it tells a different story.
So she turned up at Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party. A lot of people were confused why they were there, and then lots of photographs were taken. There was no NDAs.
Jeff Bezos' mansion isn't just a house, it's a social checkpoint. You don't just stumble in there, and you definitely don't pose for photos unless you want to be seen. This wasn't a casual drop-in, it was a statement. Kris Jenner's birthday isn't about blowing out candles, it's about hierarchy.
This is a party at Jeff Bezos' $70 million house. If you've ever been to one of these big celebrity parties at someone's home, it's not the Oscars, it's not the Emmys, this is a private house. Just to get up that driveway, you need to be approved.
Every face in that room represents leverage. When Meghan and Harry stepped into that space, the cameras weren't just capturing smiles, they were capturing intent. This was supposed to be Hollywood validation served on a silver platter. For someone who has spent years saying the media misunderstands her, willingly walking into a room filled with reality stars and brand architects is a choice. You don't go to an event like that and pretend you don't know how the game is played. You don't pose next to the Kardashians and then act shocked that the photos exist. At first, it looked natural. Relaxed posture, no visible panic. It looked like a moment of belonging, or at least a very expensive attempt at it.
Mom and Meghan have been friends for some years now, and they have a really sweet relationship. We took a photo.
Then the photos went live. Not hidden, not soft launched, public, tagged. It was the universal Hollywood signal. We're cool. And for a hot minute, it worked. But in Hollywood, cool only lasts as long as it's profitable. And the clock was already ticking.
And then I think we were all going through them. We're all communicating about like what we're gonna post. We're never ones to post without permission. We are like, it's not who we are.
We're very respectful.
Yeah.
The moment those images disappeared, a new storyline rushed in to fill the void. Suddenly, this wasn't a party anymore. It was a matter of principle. According to the Sussex camp, the photos never should have gone up. No approval, no consent. They claimed a form was ignored. It was the kind of bureaucratic excuse designed to sound official enough that people just nod and move on.
Bigger thing is that they were seriously busted lying about saying they filled out some form, which they didn't. There was no form. They discussed the photos. They had regret.
Then came the emotional layering. The timing, they said, was off. Remembrance Day was coming up. The implication was sharp. We weren't partying. We were being somber. It was a clever pivot. But the problem with Hollywood explanations is that they are judged by timing, not tone. And this one arrived way too late.
And now Kim has just completely laid it all out on the line. And I think it just shows you how much they try to curate things to make it look one way, when the reality is just be truthful. That's the problem that people have.
If consent was really the issue, the outrage would have happened immediately, not after the internet had already dissected the images. It felt filtered, rehearsed, like a crisis response pulled from a dusty playbook. And when stories feel that polished, people don't lean in, they back away. The public wasn't asking for perfection, they just wanted the story to make sense. And that's where the cracks started showing, because the more they explained, the more attention they drew to the stuff that didn't line up. And once people stopped looking at the feelings and started looking at the timeline, the narrative fell apart because of one visible detail that refused to stay quiet.
We have the craziest, funnest photos from that night, but we were posting just like fun photos. And so
Dignified photos.
we were
All it took was a single image. No press release needed, just a detail sitting in plain sight. As people replayed the footage, something stood out on Prince Harry's lapel, a poppy. That symbol isn't subtle. It doesn't get there by accident. Wearing it signals that you know exactly what day it is. It signals preparation, which made the earlier excuse feel incredibly awkward. You can't claim the date slipped your mind while physically acknowledging it on your chest. That's not confusion. That's a contradiction.
We were told that it was totally cool to post, and then after it was posted, I think they realized it was Remembrance Day, and they didn't want to be seen at a party, even though it's already up.
Once that surfaced, the story shifted fast. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about sequencing. If Remembrance Day was important enough to influence public behavior, then it was important enough to remember before stepping into a high-profile party. The logic couldn't bend both ways. Online reactions didn't explode, they sharpened. People stopped debating and started comparing timestamps. The poppy became the silent witness in the room. And when a narrative collapses over something that small, it doesn't just weaken the argument, it kills credibility. Because suddenly, the question changed. It wasn't who posted the photos. It became who is lying to us. That's when the tone shifted, not with outrage, but with indifference.
They are not friends with Ms. Markle at all. The friendship is between Meghan and their mother.
They're not going to be at the Grammys, they're not going to be at the Oscars, they're not going to be at private parties, because when anything goes wrong, whenever there's a little bit of a conversation to have, these two lash out in pain.
When Kim and Khloe finally addressed it, they didn't sound rattled. They sounded amused by the confusion. Speaking casually, they took the story apart piece by piece. No consent forms, they said. No misunderstanding. Approval was given. The photos weren't sneaky. They were agreed upon. And instead of dumping everything online, they claimed they deliberately chose the most respectful images, the dignified ones. That word dignified landed hard. It was a polite way of implying there were other photos the public never saw. Suddenly, the deletion didn't look like the Kardashians were doing damage control. It looked like they were doing Meghan a favor. Then came the detail that made insiders raise their eyebrows. Kim allegedly floated the idea of turning the awkwardness into a joke, a playful Skims tie-in, a wink at the camera, the kind of move that usually diffuses tension instantly. The offer was reportedly declined, and that refusal spoke volumes.
Taken down, and then I think they realized, like, oh, this was so silly.
And they did baby to baby right before.
Well,
they
it's
did
like a
red
charity
carpet.
event, so like that was fine, but maybe not partying and dancing on the dance floor and whatever.
In this world, humor is currency. Control comes from leaning in, not locking down. By shutting it down, Meghan didn't preserve dignity. She froze the tension in place. And when the Kardashians moved on without cleaning it up for her, the message was clear. We aren't protecting your story. We're protecting ours. Hollywood doesn't erase things out of kindness. It erases them for survival. Once the Kardashians stepped back, the reason those photos disappeared became impossible to ignore. It wasn't consent, it was optics. Brutal, unforgiving optics. Industry whispers started circling immediately. Meghan's appearance was described as off-brand, tired, overly glossy in the wrong lighting. Meanwhile, Harry's body language became its own subplot. A glance here, a posture there. Screenshots did the rest.
And you can see it in the paparazzi footage as Prince Harry leaves this event, is that he's not happy about it.
Suddenly, the conversation wasn't aspirational. It was awkward, and awkward is poison in celebrity culture. Once an image becomes meme bait, no explanation can save it. You just delete and pray people forget. Then the timing hit. British outlets noticed the proximity to Remembrance Sunday and didn't hold back. The framing wasn't sympathetic, it was sharp. Headlines questioned judgment, and unlike social media noise, that kind of press sticks. So the images came down, quiet, without ceremony, not because rules were broken, but because the visual story wasn't saying what it was supposed to say. What made this moment stick wasn't the party itself, it was the familiarity. Viewers didn't feel shocked, they felt deja vu.
About her lying and the racism, that right there shows me how you can see this woman lied about racism. She did not tell the truth about what happened to her. She wanted to make something out of nothing. And this is what happens. You get someone who gets busted lying with this, you know she's lied with other things as well.
We've seen this movie before. A carefully framed story starts strong, then quietly unravels once you zoom in. People started connecting dots. Past interviews, old clips. Statements that once passed unchallenged were now being viewed with a skeptic's eye. Patience is thinner now. When explanations pile up, trust erodes. This is where the pattern conversation took hold. Each incident on its own might be a misunderstanding, but stacked together, it looks like a rhythm. Bold claim, emotional framing, pushback, partial walkback, silence. And the internet has a long memory for rhythms like that. What changed this time was the setting. This wasn't a hostile media outlet. This was Hollywood, a place where reputations are built on reliability, not sympathy. People don't care how you feel. They care if you're difficult to work with. That's why this didn't spark outrage. It sparked caution, the kind that travels in private texts and closed-door meetings. Once that shift happens, narratives lose power. Credibility isn't taken away publicly, it's withdrawn quietly. And that is the most dangerous outcome of all, because when people stop reacting, they aren't convinced. They're just done listening. This is where the misread became impossible to ignore.
They blamed the Kardashians for all this. Well, now Khloe and Kim are not going to have that anymore. They told the truth, which is they did nothing wrong. They posted pictures. Meghan and Harry realized maybe partying in Hollywood with Kardashians on Remembrance Day is probably not the best idea. And then they blamed the Kardashians.
The assumption seemed simple. Befriend Kris Jenner and you're insulated. But the Kardashians don't run on loyalty. They run on leverage. Kris Jenner isn't just a gatekeeper. She's a strategist. She watches how people move when things go sideways. And when that night started generating friction instead of value, the calculation shifted. Kim and Khloe didn't scramble to rescue the situation. They let it stand, because in their world, authenticity, even messy authenticity, beats spin every time. If something feels forced, they don't polish it, they step away. That's the part Meghan seemed to underestimate. Hollywood today isn't impressed by titles. It's impressed by fluency, knowing when to laugh at yourself, knowing when to lean into the mess. The Kardashians built an empire by surviving awkward moments. They turned missteps into content. Meghan tried to freeze the narrative, and it just made it heavier. This wasn't rejection, it was worse. It was deprioritization. And in a city driven by relevance, nothing lands harder than being quietly moved out of focus. While Hollywood was recalibrating, a different response was taking shape across the Atlantic. This one didn't involve podcasts or deleted posts. It involved preparation. Reports surfaced that Prince William had brought in a top-tier crisis PR specialist, not to fight a headline, but to anticipate what comes next. That move alone says everything. You don't hire that level of expertise unless you expect turbulence.
The royal family are meant to honour the fallen on a solemn remembrance weekend in the UK, but the dumb, traitorous Prince Harry and his grinning wannabe instead chose to honour a Kardashian 5,000 miles away. No interest in duty, just tacky fame.
This wasn't about one party, it was about future flashpoints. Events like the Invictus Games, where optics matter just as much as intention. What made this quietly brutal was the contrast. While one side scrambled to explain a deleted Instagram post, the other was building long-term containment walls. No statements, no emotion, just structure. That's how institutions protect themselves. They don't argue narratives. They prepare for consequences. The subtext was hard to miss. If Harry intends to re-enter UK public life in any form, the margin for chaos is gone. The patience for drama has expired. This wasn't punishment, it was a precaution. When even family starts planning around you instead of with you, the message is unmistakable. The issue is no longer what you say next. It's how much damage control others feel they need to do before you even arrive. So when you step back, this stops being about a birthday party. It becomes a turning point. Two very different worlds collided. One built on narrative control, the other built on documentation, timing, and knowing when to keep your mouth shut. The real takeaway here isn't humiliation, it's exposure. Exposure to how power actually works now. Who gets protected, who gets distanced, and how how fast the balance shifts when credibility starts slipping. If this story felt familiar, that's not an accident. It fit a pattern viewers have been noticing for years. Moments where access suddenly disappears and invitations stop coming. If you want to see just how often those moments played out in real time, check out the video linked on your screen right now. We break down multiple situations where doors visibly closed, body language shifted, and exits weren't as graceful as intended. Some are subtle. One is genuinely hard to watch, because in this era, image isn't controlled by what you say afterward. It's decided by what people see in the moment. This is Star Spotlight. Stay sharp, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.